don't you? Take that. Yeah.
No, who's that? Who's
Robbie Williams is like famous as fuck in Britain. He's like from a band called Take That. Yeah, solo career.
True, we all know that.
But he was apparently he's like on drugs. He's had a couple of mushrooms and he's knocked Elton John's door.
What? So now Martin Liedtke knows the goings on of the rich and famous. Martin Liedtke knows what Robbie Williams has been doing at Elton John's house.
And Elton John's locked him in a bedroom. Okay, he said he's woke up early in the morning and he's like him and his husband died walking into the room with a load of doctors and they had him sectioned. So
Elton John had Robbie Williams sectioned. Now it could be that that's true, or it could be it's not, or irrelevant. What I want to ask you to question the narrative is, why is Martin saying that? Where has he got his ideas from? He certainly hasn't been around Elton John's house, has he? So he doesn't know. He's got his ideas from the tabloid mainstream media, hasn't he? Let me see. Should we just Google Elton John locks up Robbie Williams? I haven't done this before. This is new. Look, you can see it's not coming up on my Google typer. Elton John locks up Robbie Williams. Let's see if it comes up. All right, the Jonathan Ross show. Robbie's telling the story. So Martin Liedtke is believing what Jonathan Ross tells him on the mainstream media news. What Robbie Williams and Jonathan Ross tell him. It's in the hits.co.news. It's in the Daily Mail, look. It must be true then. Mustn't it? Because Martin Liedtke is saying it's true. Where does Martin Liedtke get his ideas from? And what's that? So, Squirrel Sniper, I think you're probably a really good barometer here. Everyone else in chat, if you're a Martin Liedtke fan or, you know, or not, like, tell me here. Are the Martin Liedtke crowd, is the Flat Earth British crowd in with the Daily Mail? Robbie Williams is a big conspiracy theorist, okay, but what about the Daily Mail? Are they trustworthy? Is this good media? Are they trustworthy? Do you think? Is Jonathan Ross and the BBC, are they the anti? Are we talking about the, you know, the alternative agenda here? Jonathan Ross, the mainstream media, BBC, the Mail Online. It seems like this is reported in the mainstream media, and they're the opposite side of the way. It seems to me, anyway, right, that's the opposite team, and that you shouldn't be believing the shit you read here and reporting it back on your platform if you're a truther. And if you don't dig deep enough, you might just be confused by people like Martin Liedtke. I don't know about, and nor do I care about what's going on with Robbie Williams. If we want to talk about this mainstream agenda in the media thing, right, this is there to confuse you and distract you, when you should actually be worried not so much about what Robbie Williams was doing, but what Richie Sunak is doing right now.
The country where I live in, they're just gaslighting everyone. You got like all people just sitting on the streets. It's freezing cold. Yeah, they got these boat boys. They just put in like 80 fucking first-class hotels in Britain.
Boat boys in first-class hotels in Britain while there's homeless on the streets. So what Martin is saying, at the moment in the UK, we've got a problem with immigration, people coming over the... Oh, it's from the Daily Mail again. Oh, I see. What happens is people are coming over in boats to the UK. The reason they're coming on these boats now in greater numbers than ever before is because we did Brexit. And before, if you came from France on a boat to the UK, you would have come from Europe to Europe. And as a European state, France, sending immigrants to the UK, that's not how it works. So we would literally be able to say, okay, turn you around, straight back to France. They're your immigrants in your part of the European states, France. Like, we had a system for it in the EU so that there wasn't free movement of illegal immigrants. And now, because we're not in the EU, if they arrive on British shore, we can't send them back to France. They've arrived here now. They're now British illegal immigrants, not European illegal immigrants. They've got out of Europe, they're here now. So we've got an increased problem with these people, mainly from human trafficking. There is a greater number of certain nationalities, because that's how it works, isn't it? And so we've got a greater problem with this because of Brexit. You can look into it, question the narrative, you can look into it. That's what's happening. And what's happening is we don't have the resources or the facilities, despite, right, get this, we had a Brexit where we wanted to control our own borders. That was the idea. And now that we've got control of our own borders, it turns out we don't have the facilities to control our own borders. We don't have the facilities to stop these people in France because that's the French end. And when we were in Europe, we could go to France and deal with it because we were working together. Now we can't. Our border starts at France, not on our shore, it starts at France. But, you know, we can't police that anymore. Now we've got these people arriving here. We don't have the places to contain them. We don't have facilities, whether they be nice and plushy or squalid and horrible. We don't have them. We've got a few little immigration centres, and that's it. We're not equipped for these big numbers. The politicians that sold you the narrative that we should have a Brexit to control our borders have not got control of the borders and did not want control of the borders. What they really wanted is for this to increase so they could scare you with immigrants because right, we've got like 25,000 migrants, yeah, in hotels on full board. It seems like a lot of money. We're putting them in hotels because our government are failing us. Not because immigrants bad, but because our government are failing us, right? 25,000 migrants, right? So let's just have a look at how many children are born below the poverty line UK. Let's see if I can get that. There are 3.9 children living in poverty right now in the UK. 3.9 million children. So we're comparing let's just say children, because obviously the families are in poverty as well, but those children need feeding, they take benefits, they a burden to society, or whatever you want to call it. There's 3.9 million of them. We need to fix that, don't we? Martin's worried about there's homeless people on the street and we're putting these people in hotels, and he's angry these people are in a hotel. They've come in off a fucking boat off the ocean because their country's fucking awful, and they've arrived here with nothing, and we've put them in a fucking room with a little kettle, and Martin's angry, okay? Okay, you can increase that number if you want, double it, 50,000 migrants, put them all in hotels, yeah? Well, I don't want them in hotels. I think we should have built the facilities to house illegal immigrants. Not like prisons, a bit nicer than prisons, but you know what I'm saying? But we haven't done that, have we? Instead, we're putting them... That's not because migrants bad, that's because politicians bad. You know why? The people that run the hotels are getting the money. And who's in charge of running the hotels? Oh, the friend of Matt Hancock's. Oh, the friend of Boris Johnson. Oh, it's the hospitality industry again. Eat out to help out. They're getting the money. They're taking our taxpayer money and giving it to hotel people. That's the bad thing. Instead of doing that, they could have built the fucking centres. So, politics aside, you know that they're ripping you off and giving the public sector money to the private sector. To those businesses, to those hotels. Those hotels weren't full. Don't tell me those hotels were doing good business down there. Those hotels were dying on their arse, and now they're full of people, paid for by the government. They love it. The hotel people love it. Free money from the government, full hotel. That's the government for you. That's not migrants are doing that. And let's say you double the number, there's 50,000. There's 3.9 million children living in poverty. So you look at the scales and the money and what has to happen, and you can't argue that immigration is an issue in our economy because there's 3.9 million children living in poverty. There's 50,000 immigrants. There's not even 0.1%. They're not worried about who's living in Birmingham and anything like that. They're just letting poor people just fucking suffer and skimming the money. And it's not that you should be angry at other poor people. Other poor people are not your enemy here. This woman is not taking money out of your pocket intentionally. Your government are intentionally fucking you. This woman is not your enemy. These poor people are not your enemy. The poor bloke next door who can only afford the Guinness, and the packet of fags down the pub, they're not your enemy. Someone driving a taxi is not your enemy economically. The fucking rich people who have got, Richie Sunak's got £350 million. Yes, I know my enemy. They're the teachers that taught me to fight me. Conformity, compromise. I know my enemy. Know your enemy. It's not other poor people. Doesn't matter whether they're black, brown or fucking green. They're not your enemy. Other poor people are forced into these horrible situations. They commit crimes. They end up being vilified by the system. It's the system, isn't it? Fuck the system. Don't be part of it. Don't preach the same morality as the system. Don't complain in exactly the same... This guy said the system is bad, Zetetic Warrior. Martin here is preaching the rhetoric of the system. Let's have that right.
All people just sitting on the streets, it's freezing cold. Yeah, they got these boat boys, they just put in 80 fucking first-class hotels in Britain, and it's like 7 million a day cost. So like, you know, they just arrive, they put them in posh hotels, and they can't wait to get you to do it. So I know it's a dialectic to fuck people's heads up.
This guy Martin Liedtke and this guy Rhetoric Warrior are talking shit to you on the internet. He's telling you that he's fighting the power. He's part of the resistance. This guy's telling you the system is bad. And there they are, reading word for word. Oh, the boat boys are in the hotels and it costs loads of money and it's bad because the immigrants. They're not telling you what I said, that the government are stealing your money and giving it to the hoteliers. That there's 3.9 million children in poverty and they need your help, and they're the problem on the books at the moment, because as they grow up they're all going to go to school and need school dinners, and they're going to need NHS, and they're going to need dentistry, and you know, we're paying for all of that. Like, socially, the money balance, it's not poured into immigrants and it should be poured into the poorer people in society, and it's not even going there. They're filtering it off and giving it to the hoteliers. They're giving it to their mates. Boris Johnson's got new curtains. Wake up. This guy has not woken up. He's preaching the rhetoric of the system.
But it's just disgusting that they're doing that in this country, you know? It drives you nuts, this place.
Because he's racist.
It really does.
Yeah, man. We're talking
That's one step away from moving towards Nazism.
about pigs. These are